at the 4 aid distribution drop zones that they've created, 3 of which are in southern Gaza and 1 is in the middle, 1 is in central Gaza, which isn't even open frequently, which is not even open all the time. When they do open those aid distribution drops, they open them to kill people. They open them for 10 minutes at a time, and then they immediately start dumping munitions on these people. And in Gaza, more than 100 aid agencies warn of mass starvation.
Inside one of Gaza's barely functioning hospitals, where doctors say they're fighting to save the lives of malnourished children. Even in the darkness, as power supplies fail, the arm is being measured of a painfully thin baby called Ode. We've been told he is an orphan. Nobody knows what happened to his parents, just that he was discovered in a shelter.
Doctors said he might die because of severe lack of nutrition, and it would be a miracle if he survived. You can see the bones in his back and his heart beating. Now they've given him supplements and milk.
This child has cerebral palsy. Now his mother says her son's problems are compounded by the shortage of food and medicine. And it's not only the children fighting for survival.
Everyone is suffering from lack of nutrition, even the doctors. We are tired and we are struggling to work. It's hard to keep going through the day. We only have a small amount of medicine and supplements left for the children.
This baby is just acute severe malnutrition.
Other doctors in Gaza have posted images of children they're treating. They say baby Sela was born healthy 11 months ago and now weighs 3.5 kilograms.
Low calorie intake. The mother is malnourished. She's unable to give breastfeeding. And also the artificial milk wasn't available for the baby to be given. And this is a case of severe acute malnutrition.
The World Health Organization has said a large proportion of the population in Gaza is starving, with human rights groups demanding a resolution to the war of words over who should bear responsibility for the breakdown in aid.
This is what history will remember, that while food and medicine sat in trucks miles away in warehouses, the world chose politics over people and human beings, and that children were starving while leaders debated whether they were starving or not in the first place.
After the UN claimed Israel was preventing aid crossing into Gaza, the Israeli army released this drone footage claiming to show humanitarian aid supplies on the Gaza side of the border waiting to be distributed to Palestine.
Yeah, their new meta is to say, the new lie is to say, oh, Israel is actually letting in aid. It's just that these independent third-party human rights groups are not simply delivering the aid to Gaza Humanitarian Foundation points because they don't want the aid to be distributed evenly amongst the public through UNRWA. It's a lie. They're literally not allowing any of the humanitarian aid organizations to operate and claiming that the only way to distribute this aid is through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Ethan Klein's favorite charity, which he has repeatedly promoted on his Instagram stories because he's a monstrous Zionist piece of shit who loves Israel's genocide. He must. After all, he runs so much cover by attacking all of Israel's critics. Even Destiny conceded it's a genocide 20 months late. Oh, that piece of shit. 20 months of being a paid propagandist, and only now is he like, oh, I guess it's a genocide now. Because the Israeli military, which now exercises varying levels of control over most of Gaza, refuses to reliably guarantee safe passage to UN aid operations, is a deliberate strategy to ensure that the Israel-controlled GHF aid traps are the only aid points in Gaza. There used to be over 400 aid distribution points across Gaza. Israel's reduced that number to a grand total of 4, 3 of which are in the south near the border with Egypt. 4 aid points supposedly serving 2 million people. He also called you an out-and-about Nazi-style anti-Semite. It cancels out still. Oh, Sex Pestiny called me an out-and-about Nazi-style anti-Semite. I don't remember him sucking my dick. If he truly believed that, he would be begging to suck my cock, I think. So, considering his past interactions with out and about Nazi anti-Semites. So it's weird that he's claiming this.
Palestinians.
There is no famine in Gaza. There is a famine of the truth, and Israel will not stop telling it. 87 million meals, 1.8 million tons of aid, which we facilitated, aid getting in. Hamas loots, it starves its own people, and the world looks away.
One thing is clear. Alongside the aid crisis, the conflict is raging on. In Gaza City, a mother in a hospital bed facing the unimaginable act of her children being brought to her to say goodbye in the aftermath of continuing airstrikes by Israel in its war with Hamas. Lisa Holland, Sky News, Jerusalem.
Let's speak now to the Israeli government spokesman, David Mencer. Good evening. And when your allies say the suffering of civilians in Gaza has reached horrific new depths, and when aid agencies say mass starvation is spreading across Gaza, do you find it difficult to come on here to defend that?
Mark, let's start with the facts, not the fiction. In Gaza today, there's no famine caused by Israel. There is a man-made shortage, but it's been engineered by Hamas. That's the point. That's the end of the sentence, which you don't include. This suffering exists because Hamas made it so. Here are the facts. Here are the facts. Aid is flowing through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Millions of meals are being delivered directly to civilians, and also coordinated shipments, food, medicine, raw materials, flour for bakeries and kitchens. Since May, over 4,400 aid trucks have entered Gaza, carrying flour and baby food, 2,500 tons of baby food, high-calorie nutrition for children.
They've gotten worse at this. Like they get more flustered. They're more visibly angry. They're not used to any sort of pushback. So the more this continues, the worse they get at propagandizing, and the worse they get at propagandizing while simultaneously declaring all enemies of Israel to be rabid anti-Semites, the more they spread anti-Semitism. It's so monstrous. This video is just him being mad and yelling at the Sky News guy. This should not be a moment where you go, oh man, there's too much pressure. I should stop speaking out against this. This should embolden you further.
Children and vital medical supplies. Just yesterday alone, Mark, 2 million meals were handed out. In just weeks, now that's 1.4 million packages.
So why then are more than 100 aid agencies?
Israel is facilitating this aid every single day. The problem is not Israel. The problem is Hamas. Hamas loots the trucks, it blocks its distribution, it weaponizes hunger, and deliberately endangers its own people. And right now, there are over 700 aid trucks sitting inside Gaza waiting for the UN to collect them. 700 aid trucks are right now waiting for the incompetent UN to come and collect them.
Now, can I get a question in now?
If you
I'm glad that I addressed this outright lie ahead of time. As I told you, the new meta is to simply say, oh, it's that aid is there, but the human rights groups that normally would distribute the aid are not distributing the aid because the only way to distribute the aid is the 3 choke points that we've created as an aid trap. If you want to distribute aid to the Palestinian population, you have to deliver it through the American mercenaries that have been ruthlessly slaughtering the Palestinian civilian population every single day at the 4 aid distribution drop zones that they've created, 3 of which are in southern Gaza and 1 is in the middle, 1 is in central Gaza, which isn't even open frequently, which is not even open all the time. When they do open those aid distribution drops, they open them to kill people. They open them for 10 minutes at a time, and then they immediately start dumping munitions on these people.
Talking about 28 of your closest allies. We're talking about 100 aid agencies, not 1, not 2, all.
You are speaking Arabic? Not exactly unbiased? Hamas is the issue? What are you saying? Pretty sure the Holocaust happened to the Jews, not by the Jews. First of all, I was speaking Turkish, not Arabic, you moron. Secondly, the original Holocaust did happen to the Jews. The current modern Holocaust Holocaust that's taking place is being done by Israel.
Saying the same thing. Now,
what do you mean, American mercenaries? The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a joint operation with the Mossad and the CIA. It uses almost entirely American military veterans, mercenaries that were initially tasked with security operations at points of entry that are now working like private mercenaries, PMCs, private military contractors. I like how you say by Israel and not Jews. Yes, because there are plenty of Jews who are not on board with what Israel is doing, and I'm not going to let that go, no matter how hard Israel tries to make it seem like all Jews are on board with this. Okay? It's not out of fear that I'm worried that someone is going to declare me anti-Semitic. Many of my critics have already done that. Okay? Many of my critics have done that already. I will never concede to the Israeli framing on this issue. I will never concede to the Zionist framing on this issue that Israel is for the Jews, by the Jews, and doing everything for Judaism. That's it. It's not because of some fear that I'm going to be called an anti-Semite. Trust me. People do that every single day. They call me an anti-Semitic, Muslim fundamentalist, Islamist terrorist all day, every day, up and down. Those in actual positions of power do so. It's not the reason. I say this because it's not the truth.
the UN are telling us there is no security for those trucks. Israel is not guaranteeing that desperate Palestinians will not be killed. Now, your military is occupying Gaza. It is your obligation to get food and medical supplies to the population. That is your obligation under international law. Otherwise, you are using hunger as a weapon of war.
Yeah, okay, Mark. So the truth matters here. This is where it is. There is no famine in Gaza. There is a famine of the truth, and Israel will not stop telling it. 87 million meals, 1.8 million tons of aid, which we've facilitated, aid getting in. Hamas loots, it starves its own people, and the world looks away. We open new routes to deliver food and medicine. Hamas blocks them and fires from them, and then cries to an all-too-willing Sky News, all-too-willing, to the cameras when civilians are hurt.
Why don't you provide security then? Why don't you provide security then for the UN to get those supplies into Gaza? You can't say, here's the point, you can't say on the one hand that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is now distributing the aid in Gaza, and then when it's a disaster, with up to 1,000 people shot dead, you start blaming the UN.
Mark?
You start blaming the UN for causing hunger. I mean, it's simply nonsense.
Hamas. The media shows pictures of hungry people, but won't say the words that matter. Hamas stole their food. Hamas caused their suffering. Hamas turned charity into $1 billion racket, just like.
To what end? To what end? What are they going to do with the legal tender? What can they do? Ironically enough, there is a group that is actually stealing aid, the collaborators, who can make use of the shekels. But those guys, although they are of Palestinian descent, are ISIS affiliates that work alongside the Israeli occupying force. What can Hamas do with the dollars at this point? Let's say that they are stealing 85 million tons of food, and then they're redistributing that food to the Palestinian population, and they're getting money in return. There's a massive, massive inflation crisis in Gaza, which is so crazy to think that there is even like some kind of commerce taking place inside of the Gaza Strip, but it's true. I know many people who still are living inside of the Gaza Strip, many people who are surviving this genocide, who talk about their day-to-day experiences, where they will show, they'll show like a can of beans and one pita, and how much it costs to purchase these things, and it's like $300. What could Hamas do with that, with the money that they're getting? What could Hamas do with the money that they're getting? What can they purchase? Can they purchase weapons? Can they purchase munitions? What could they be buying with the food that they're selling? Are they buying more food? Is that what they're doing? It makes no sense. It's just pure racist nonsense. That's it.
Mafia, they steal the aid, they sell it on the black market, and they're hoarding it for their own terrorist fighters, recruiting killers with that money. So when we have disrupted that pipeline of theft, Hamas saw Israel as a threat to their business model, not their people's salvation. So we've attacked the terrorists.
It's crazy. Everything is racist to you. They're all going to die anyway. Hamas will be no more. Drugs, everything is racist to you. Dog, you just said that Hamas is hoarding the aid so they can steal it, hoard it, and then sell it back to the Palestinian population so they can purchase drugs, while also simultaneously saying they are all going to die anyway. Hamas will be no more. What do I call you? Everything is racist to you. Brother, I'm going to be honest with you. Palestine and Israel. Yeah, okay, dude. Well, once again, I'm choosing to look at the bright side of this, which is that even the most monstrous scumbags like this at least are too pussy to say Palestine, Israel is winning. You know? They still, even the biggest Nazi piece of shit like this guy, who in Asmongold's chat is talking about how he wants a sugar mommy. Same as immigrants, drugs, brainwashed snowflakes. It's a game to them. Leave weed out of this. IQ test the vote. Even guys like this have to still say Israel too, actually. Palestine, but also Israel. Israel's even lost this dude. This person is not even a human, okay? They are barely sentient. And even a barely sentient moron still has to literally couch their bloodlust for all Arabs and all Palestinians and all Muslims with, I also hate Israel, to be honest. Like, Israel still sucks, you know what I mean? Lol, I agree. Yes, you're so stupid that I just said you're barely sentient and you agreed with me. That's how stupid you are. Get back to Asmongold's chat. Don't come in here. See, that's the point. A year ago, that guy would not have to say Israel, okay? That's my point. The attitude and the discourse surrounding this has changed so dramatically that even the dumbest, most racist guy who fantasizes about the ethnic cleansing of all Palestinians still has to be like, but I hate Israel too, dog. Like, I promise.
While Hamas put civilians in harm's way.
Right, but who is being shot dead? Who is being shot dead? Who is being shot dead when people go to get the food?
Points the finger at Israel.
Oh God, Hasan, they may be a monster, but you are dipping into the dehumanizing sphere. Yes. Yes, I will dehumanize someone who is a Nazi because it is not I who have dehumanized them. They've done that to themselves. When you're a Nazi, you're no longer a human. That's why so many people are terrified of being branded as such. I didn't do that. He did that to himself by wishing death upon all Palestinians. Don't tone police how I deal with Nazis. Get the out of here. As we watch images of children being starved to death and come in here to say, no, that's actually good. And you're over here being like, you're being awfully rude. You're being dehumanizing to a person who has literally let go of their humanity voluntarily. Shut the up. God, some of you liberals are such morons, dude. This is why you get manipulated by straightforward fascists all the goddamn time. They just like tug at your heartstrings. They literally advocate to cleanse you. And then you still turn around and say, but we have to listen to the diversity of opinion here. Why are you being so ruthless to the Nazi in the process of being a fascist? Who gives a what that person thinks? That person has already volunteered his humanity away. He is openly saying, I'm not human, I'm a monster. And you're over here being like, oh, why don't you be more sympathetic? While he's in the process of advocating for death and destruction. God, some of you are so stupid, dude. Where is the civility? I don't have any interest in civility with anyone who looks at the images of starving babies, starving children, and says, this is actually good. This is actually justifiable. There's no room for civility with a person like that. That is not a person anymore. They have destroyed all notion of personhood at that point. You understand? This isn't me being woke or out of pocket or something. I don't give a shit. Especially in the process of like moderating this community. It's not like I'm saying I'm going to go kill that person. You're upset by my words in retaliation to someone who is advocating for ethnic cleansing. Think about that. So dumb. Yes, dude, I'm going to hurt your feelings if you advocate for a child holocaust. Okay? Your feelings are going to get hurt. It takes $0 to not say that you are in favor of this live stream child holocaust. Okay? It's free. It's free 99. You don't have to do it. You don't have to type it out. You don't have to say it. You don't have to try to like invoke some kind of anger out of me and others in this community. But if you do that, you're volunteering your feelings away. Well, not like you are open to any other thinking other than your own. You are offended easy as a child, bro. Once again, what is the diversity of opinion here? That some children deserve to be starved? Some people deserve to be ethnically cleansed? Is that your diversity of opinion? Go ahead. Don't use vague generalities. Address the exact argument. Because what I'm saying is we are watching children be starved right now. We are watching an entire population of people be genocided in broad daylight. Okay? Not saying that you're wrong, but you're triggered pretty easy. Are you a sea cucumber? Are you that stupid that you only can like see my reaction? Oh man, you got emotional. Yeah, of course. Of course I get angry. Why are you not angry? If you are more concerned with my reaction being emotional to someone who is saying, yeah, some children deserve to be starved, big dog. What are you going to do about it? It's actually good. Then you're a moron. If you can't show any semblance of emotion in a situation like this, what can you show emotion to? Once again, dangerously coming close to this dehumanization territory on your own. Do you notice that? Because it is the most humane thing. It is the most normal thing to feel angry and frustrated. Billions of people see these images and they also feel incredibly frustrated by it. They want a solution to it. They want an end to it. If you look at that and you turn around and go, why are you guys so angry? It's just a couple starving children. Who gives a... Well, then I guess you don't give a shit. You haven't proven anything beyond the fact that most people that hear you respond this way, and I doubt that you respond this way in real life in broad daylight around other human beings that are within striking distance, you know. But if what draws some kind of response, some kind of negative reaction out of you in this process is my response to someone being so indignant and so immoral in the face of starving children, then you are forfeiting your humanity. Not only are you forfeiting it, you seemingly are flexing it. You're like, oh, no, dude, I'm a sociopath. Like, it's awesome. But perhaps your goal here is to get me so mad that I say something that you can like try to clip and say, look at how unreasonable Hasan is. I think it is you who's unreasonable. I think many people probably also would agree with me here too. There's nothing more unreasonable than seeing starving children and then not having a... You got anything else to say? They unfollowed. Lol. Nice. They went nonverbal.
Is out with a new argument now that over the last 48 hours, more than 100 people in Gaza have died of malnutrition and starvation. They're saying that the problem is actually the United Nations, because there are, and it has varied how they've said it, there are some 600 or 700 or 800 or 900 trucks that Israel has cleared to enter Gaza that the UN is refusing to deliver. I spoke to people in the humanitarian aid organization world to get a sense of what Israel is talking about here. And the background is this. Well, let's step back even further. We all saw Israel run a global campaign to drive UNRWA basically out of Gaza. UNRWA was the organization that was overseeing aid distribution in Gaza and has been for many decades and was doing it effectively. If you noticed, before Israel took over aid distribution over the last several months, you actually never saw any news reports about aid seekers getting mowed down while they were going to seek aid. You might remember the World Central Kitchen workers who were killed by Israeli drone strikes. You might remember the Flower Massacre from early on in this conflict. That was late 2023, early 2024. That was an effort by Israel to control aid distribution. It failed miserably as they slaughtered huge numbers of people. And as a result of the Flower Massacre, aid delivery was turned back over to international humanitarian aid organizations. And we didn't have massacres up until this Israeli-backed and US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation took back over. So that's the background. So on July 20th, the World Food Program, which is run by Cindy McCain, the widow of John McCain, went on a 25-truck aid delivery effort in northern Gaza. Once they got cleared in, mobs of people began surrounding the trucks. These are hungry, starving people trying to kind of just grab the flour off the back of the truck, and the IDF opened fire on them, killing many of them. And so after this disaster, the World Food Program said that it was going to pause aid delivery until the IDF would guarantee that its soldiers would stop firing on people who were seeking aid. So that's why those trucks are still sitting there. Now, the UN said in response to Israel's claim that it's the UN to blame, that they're happy to deliver these trucks. Now, pause for a second and consider that people say that you need about 900 to 1,000
The invisible mirror. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs.
trucks per day to make sure that people are not dying of starvation. And we're talking about 900 trucks total that have been sitting there, since July 21st. So the UN noted that Israel recently forced the evacuation of UN workers from the last remaining civilian area that has not been completely destroyed, which is Deir el-Balah. That's where the UN and other relief agencies have their headquarters. And Israel also repeatedly rejects requests by UN staff to be able to move around Gaza. In order to be able to deliver aid, UN staff have to be able to move. They are currently either stuck in their headquarters or stuck in safe houses that they've moved to after their headquarters has been forcibly evacuated by Israeli military incursions. The short version is this: Israel controls aid distribution, and people are starving to death in droves.
Here's a update from the Kilmar Abrego Garcia situation. The Trump admin initially wanted to pretend that Mr. Abrego Garcia was an MS-13 leader. Now, fourth federal judge has found that the evidence doesn't show that he's even a member of the gang, and that's after the Trump admin spent months looking for new evidence. From the beginning, this has always been more than the person. It's been about due process, fundamental right. Our government must be the one that follows the laws. And in Mr. Abrego Garcia's case, they did not. That is why this case matters. More updates from Israel, by the way. Was wondering when someone would try to take Netanyahu out. Did not expect it to be an elderly woman with an illness hoping to go out with a blast. Anti-Netanyahu protesters suspected of planning to assassinate the prime minister. An anti-government activist has been suspected of planning to assassinate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the police announced on Wednesday. The activist, a Tel Aviv resident in her 70s, recently fell ill and told her friends and other activists she intended to take Netanyahu with her, sources familiar with the investigation said. Turns out they're not losing the Debras and the Barbaras here in the West. They're also losing some of the Debras and the Barbaras in Israel, too. One more update that I wanted to give you on the Israeli Knesset that just voted to annex the West Bank. Here's Andre X.
The Israeli Knesset just voted to annex the West Bank, and there are two things that you need to know about this. One, the vote doesn't actually do anything. It's a non-binding motion, it has no legal power, and the reason they did it is to unite the Israeli right around something that they agree on, because they've been fighting for a very long time over whether to conscript the ultra-Orthodox community into the army. So it makes for nice headlines, but it doesn't actually do anything on the ground. And two, the West Bank is already de facto annexed, and it has been for a very long time. Israel has controlled the West Bank completely for almost 70 years now. And even in Area A, which is supposed to be under Palestinian Authority, Israel practically has all the power. They control the checkpoints, they control the energy, they control the taxes, and whenever they want, they can just invade it with the army, as they often do. So, de facto, we are living in a one apartheid state solution.
Yep. It's been that way, though. Also, here's a 1997. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu allegedly used tapes of Clinton's phone sex calls with Monica Lewinsky to pressure the White House into releasing convicted spy Jonathan Pollard. Clinton reportedly told Lewinsky that a foreign embassy had tapped their phone. The story, long buried, resurfaced amid speculation about Israel's role in blackmail operations tied to Epstein. Here is drop site and breaking points is Ryan Grimm breaking it down below.
This is crazy. The 1990s, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bill Clinton, and Monica Lewinsky. Stick around for this one. So in a scandal that has been largely lost to contemporary memory, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was alleged to have blackmailed then-President Bill
Clinton bombed the Sudanese pharmaceutical factory Al-Shifa on the 20th of August 1999 during the height of the Lewinsky scandal, 3 days after his grand jury testimony on August 17th.
Bill Clinton by revealing to him that Israel had collected tapes of phone sex calls between the 42nd president and White House intern Monica Lewinsky. The story is worth revisiting amid allegations that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in a long-running Israeli blackmail operation of his own. So Clinton met with Netanyahu in the Oval Office in February 1997. Subsequently, according to testimony Lewinsky gave to the special counsel's office, Clinton's secretary Betty Curry reached out to Lewinsky to invite her to an Oval Office meeting, telling her Clinton, quote, had something important to tell her, unquote. It would turn out to be their final sexual encounter. But Clinton also used the opportunity to tell her that a, quote, foreign embassy had tapped his phone and recorded their conversation, Lewinsky said. Clinton did not specify which embassy, though the meeting with Lewinsky came the month after his meeting with Netanyahu. The special prosecutor's report was far more concerned with Lewinsky's claim of the sexual encounter that day because it contradicted Clinton's claim that they had had only one encounter that year, than they were with the fact that a foreign government was spying on the president and letting him know about it. The prosecutor was also interested in Clinton's response, namely that he proposed cover stories. These are cover stories that the two could employ if they were confronted with the tapes. Clinton suggested the pair say they knew they were under surveillance and the phone sex was a, quote, put on for whoever was listening. That's an awfully flimsy idea, but look, he was guilty. The man did not have much to work with. Now in April, Netanyahu and Clinton met again for a, quote, private visit. On a Saturday then in May 1997, Clinton again had Curry invite Lewinsky to the White House. During that visit, he broke up with her, Lewinsky testified. The next fall, so this is fall of 1998, Clinton hosted Netanyahu and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat for a summit at Wye River, Maryland. Toward the end of the summit, at 7 a.m., after a long night of final negotiations and handshakes, Netanyahu approached Clinton privately to demand the release of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard, long a cause célèbre of the Israeli far right. That's according to reporting at the time from the New York Times. Now, Netanyahu brought up the sex tapes in the context of the Pollard demand, according to subsequent reporting by Washington Examiner editor Daniel Harper in his book, Clinton, Inc., The Audacious Rebuilding of a Political Machine. He writes, quote, not wanting to directly threaten the powerful American president, a crucial Israeli ally, Clinton was told that the Israeli government had thrown the tapes away, but the very mention of them was enough to constitute a form of blackmail, Halpern reported. The talks almost broke down as CIA chief George Tenet told Clinton he would resign on the spot if Clinton agreed to the terms. So instead, Clinton agreed to, quote, review Pollard's case. He did not release him. Pollard was eventually freed in 2015 under the Obama administration. Now, on the last day of his first term, Trump pardoned Pollard's handler. Back in Israel, Pollard is now an outspoken supporter of extremist National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir.
Jonathan, all Jews have dual loyalty, Pollard, by the way. And I say this because he said this. He literally said, all Jews in America have dual loyalty and actually care about Israel more than they care about America, which is such a psychotic thing to say as like one of the most notorious American Jews that directly was prosecuted for doing espionage at the behest of Israel.
And has called for the full ethnic cleansing of Gaza. I don't know, Emily, what do you think? What did Netanyahu tell Bill Clinton?
I'm so curious.
Was there another foreign embassy that this could be?
That sounds anti-Semitic. I mean, it is. Was Obama blackmailed? No. That's why he was... No. Look, I'm very critical of Barack Obama. Obama was, of course, just like every other American president, 100% in support of Israel. But there were definitely moments. I would say Barack Obama was the last time that the American administrations had actually sidestepped away from letting Israel control whatever our Middle Eastern policy was. Famously, the JCPOA comes to mind, which is precisely the reason why Ben Rhodes, who is Jewish, by the way, and also Tommy Vitor, Dan Pfeiffer, and many of the other Obama era advisors were branded as vicious anti-Semites for playing a role in the Iran denuclearization agreements. That was something that Benjamin Netanyahu did not like. So I suspect if they actually had any sort of blackmail on Barack Obama, they would have deployed it. Okay. So and that is like marginal, for the record. That was marginal. Oh, Obama didn't go around with different women as much. That's his only good quality. Can you explain why Israel is anti-Iranian denuclearization? Israel is anti-Iran. That's it. That's it. They're anti-Iranian sovereignty. They're anti-Iran becoming a nation state. They're anti-Iran normalizing relations with America. They want Iran to be wiped out, or at least be kept in a permanent status of destabilization as a failed state, so that they can continue killing as many people as they want to as they go along with their greater Israel project of ethnic cleansing, wiping out whatever population they want to and repopulating those areas with Jewish people, even though there isn't enough Jewish people to repopulate these areas around the planet. So there is also that problem too. Ever since Smotrich got control over the deputy head of the civil administration last year, the situation has been de jure annexation. De facto annexation was the previous regime, where the military had official control, supposedly separate from the government. Now Smotrich's office in the defense ministry have complete governing power in Area C. In the coming weeks, the government will try to advance huge settlement expansion out of East Jerusalem, severing the West Bank's north and south. Oh yeah, I saw Josh Shapiro shit on Zoran as well. By friend of the show, Gabby Deutsch, if you recall her name. She is the senior national correspondent for the Jewish Insider and has written extensively about yours truly being a dangerous anti-Semite, a dangerous critic of Israel, and a dangerous anti-Semite. Well, she's got another piece about Josh Shapiro. Apparently, Josh Shapiro said, when supporters of yours say things that are blatantly anti-Semitic, you've got to condemn that. First public comments from the PA governor on the New York City mayoral candidate in a new interview with me at the Jewish Insider. Thanks, man. We really needed your feedback on this. This is the other thing that I wanted to read. The fundamental problem with Israel-Palestine is that the Israelis are too scared to take civilian casualties. Israel can be completely secure without the war if they accept casualties. The only way to have no civilian casualties is to eradicate the Palestinians as a people. Israel again and again gets sentimental. The exchange of 1,027 prisoners for one man was an act of abominable cowardice and served only to enable Hamas's future actions. Dude, this guy literally has like made cat ears. Classic. Dude, I'm sorry, but globe emoji Twitter is just gay Nazis, okay? They are just straightforward gay Nazis. Every single one of them, every single time. This is a guy who is also is a rage poster. He literally defended bestiality on the timeline, said it's not that big of a deal. But it is so funny that all of the Ukrainian flag in the Twitter bio, globe emoji Twitter bio guys are just such out and about neo-Nazis. It's crazy to me. Like, is there no shame at all? Of course, it is the U.S. which is sentimental now. We are quite taken by the plight of the hostages. We must bring them back. I don't think Israel has much interest in a few hostages now, though. As long as they remain, Gaza can be destroyed. I think Israel may finally be engaged in a genocide if they're indeed starving them out. This is also the only path Israel has to having no civilian casualties. This is why it is a mad goal, and they must give it up. And obviously, like even when he's arriving at the right conclusions, one, it takes so long, and two, he takes the worst possible way. And obviously, one must understand that the core of the Palestinian cause has not one principle besides victory. Now that they are behind, they cry out for mercy. They would not give it to themselves if they had won. You don't know that. And also, victory for the Palestinians is emancipation. Victory for the Palestinians is sovereignty, something that Israeli society gets to enjoy, while also simultaneously not just doing sovereignty, but also dominance to others, the indigenous population of the Palestinians. Holy still, if Nazism could be beat out of a people, perhaps Palestinians wanting to get rid of the occupation that has killed them and their families and destroyed their homes, that is currently doing a genocide, that has always operated in an apartheid structure, is actually irredentism. This dude is just NATO Himmler. I know, so many globe accounts, so many globe emoji pro-NATO accounts on the timeline are just straight up gay Hitler, okay? That's it. They're just gay Adolf Hitler. Yeah. It's additionally funny that he says, like, this is irredentism. Is Ukraine engaging in irredentism, which must have been stopped by Russians? Is that what it is? Irredentism is what Russia is doing to Ukraine, chatters, ironically enough. If you want to understand what it is. Genocide is what Israel is doing to Gaza. Irredentism is what Russia is doing to Ukraine. Okay? Straight up. So to sum it up, Israel bad, Palestine bad. Ugh. Putting this to make it clear, the civilian casualties are Israeli casualties. I need to make this extremely clear. There are Israeli casualties I am referring to, not Palestinian casualties. I feel like I'm going insane. Y'all are misinterpreting the words. What are you talking about? He's literally saying Israel has to do a genocide because Palestinians are monstrous pieces of shit that are engaging in irredentist acts of violence against Israel. And Israel has no other way of beating the Nazi out of the Palestinian. What is hard to contend? What is hard to understand about his words here? He is literally saying Palestinians are Nazis. They have like Nazi elements. And they want to take over Israeli society as a whole, and they would be far more ruthless to Israel if they had the opportunity to do so. And they're only simply begging for mercy now because Israel is ruthlessly pummeling them. This is no different than what Benjamin Netanyahu says. What do you think is the justification in Israel for their genocide? Since October 7th, they keep saying, oh, if we don't genocide them, they're going to genocide us. None of this makes sense. Especially when you learn the facts on the ground. This is also ironically how the Nazis justified the Holocaust. Be a hypothetical future genocide, and therefore we must preemptively do a genocide. He's basically just saying, ugh, fine, I guess the genocide, but it's not that bad. Plus they asked for it, so it's good actually also. This is word for word what the white Afrikaner people justified it too. Crazy how bad education is. Yeah. There are like 5 globe emoji Twitter accounts that take up 90% of these conversations. These people need to be ignored already. I know. I just wanted to show you how stupid this argument was and how depraved this person was. There's only one of those like pro-NATO Andes that has like become normal and is like pro-Palestinian. What is his name? Nicolaj or whatever. Even then he has like stupid takes every now and then. But every single globe emoji account, every single one of these crazy globe emoji accounts is like cackling, baying for blood. They're all just gay Hitler straight up. It's crazy. Yeah. Also, here's some good news. Donald Trump has officially lost the January 6th QAnon shaman. Jake and Jelly Chansley says, oh yeah, and Israel and Donald Trump. Few things is blood boiling to see a person who could not point to a Palestine on a map 2 years ago, try to shine a new divine light on the secrets of this conflict and of Israeli-Palestinian society. You don't need your own unified field theory. It doesn't mean you were wrong. No, I know. Except you're describing like most of the people, I would say, that have become quote-unquote experts in defending Israel, like the Brianna Wu, the Destiny, like all of these people that quite literally, by their own admission, knew nothing before October 7 and just kind of took a stance that was pro-Israel and went along with it. And at no point did they go, okay, maybe I've gone too far. And they just kept doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down while simultaneously hoping that people would become just as ruthless and just as cruel as they are, that the situation, the tide would shift and people would forget about this, or that people would just like allow it to continue, that this movement would not grow. It's crazy. The shaman speaks and the people follow. Have just noticed Kaya's haircut. Bet that feels good. She didn't get a haircut. FBI Director Kash Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files. This is what's so insane to me about this iteration of the Trump admin. They only hired like one guy who was actually aware that Trump is a bad person, and his dumbass JD. You need a bunch of Bill Bars if you're gonna do this, not idiots like Kash and Dan who believed Trump. This is a big part of why they're even more interventionists now. Back during Trump 1.0, he was often held back by career military officers who knew he was a dumbass and tried to babysit him. Now everyone around him goes along with whatever he wants. Bill Barr isn't even some bureaucratic god like James Baker. He just had enough oxygen to his brain and therefore knew Trump was a bad person. That should be the bare minimum for an important role in any Trump admin. This whole thing is a repulsive farce, but Kash and Dan fretting about their blown credibility is really funny. That used to mean you blew up decades of Senate tenure or something. For these guys, it means they're ashamed to even ask their audiences to buy Navy SEAL CBD. That is the best part about it, is that the enshittification of the American government has completely taken place. It's like it's finalized. And therefore, now these guys are worried about like not being able to hold space in their fucking like Navy SEAL podcast. And he's right. JD Vance is the only person who knows Donald Trump is bad. And that's why he's like noticeably absent from this Epstein conversation. Have you noticed that JD Vance is nowhere to be found? Weirdly enough, he hasn't said shit. He's at Disneyland. He's at Nantucket. Yeah, it's because he's basically waiting for this to fucking die down, for this to quiet down. He always will take like a Trumpian style, like Tucker Carlson adjacent, like non-interventionist position every now and then. No, they haven't shelved him. It's because he has ambitions of higher office. What is the highest office you can have? It's the presidency. That is precisely the reason why JD Vance is just like quietly waiting whichever way the wind blows. There could potentially come a day where JD Vance, backed by Peter Thiel and the Curtis Yarvins of the world, fucking ends up putting the knife in Trump's back.